Navigating a deadly environment, a physical threat, isn't always what gets you. Sometimes destroying an entire group takes just one believable lie. Thousands of years ago, according to an ancient Buddhist text, two merchants faced a logistical nightmare. They had a combined fleet of 1,000 heavy supply carts to move along the exact same trade route. Traveling together would crowd the road and exhaust the local resources, so they agreed to split their caravans in half and travel separately. The first merchant immediately volunteered to go first. His oxen get the freshest grass, his crew eats the unpicked fruit, and he sets the highest prices without any market competition. The second merchant was perfectly fine with going second. He calculated that the first fleet's heavy carts would pack down the rough dirt roads, making the journey physically easier for his team. Plus, the market prices would already be established by the time he arrived, saving him the hassle of haggling. Confident he had outsmarted his friend, the first merchant led his heavily burdened carts straight into a desolate region known as the waterless desert. His entire strategy was built on maximizing his own profit. That intense focus on personal advantage blinded him to the actual physical dangers of the environment he was marching his crew into. Halfway through the scorching desert, the caravan ran into a large group of travelers coming from the opposite direction. These strangers were completely soaked, their carts dripping with water, and they were carrying fresh, wet lotus flowers. The leader of the strangers looked at the exhausted merchant and gave him some confident advice. He told him that a lush oasis was just over the horizon. He urged the merchant to dump his heavy water reserves right there to give his tired animals a break. The merchant didn't question how an oasis could exist in a place called the waterless desert. He looked at the mud, listened to the confident tone of the stranger, and accepted the claim completely. Following the advice, the crew poured all their drinking water out into the sand. They pushed forward for hours, but the horizon stayed completely dry. By nightfall, severely dehydrated and exhausted, the entire caravan collapsed where they stood. They were completely defenseless when the helpful strangers returned in the middle of the night. The travelers were actually demons in disguise, consuming the weakened caravan. By the time the sun came up, there wasn't a single human or animal left alive. The harsh desert didn't kill this crew. They were destroyed by their own willingness to blindly trust a confidently delivered lie. Several months later, the second merchant arrived at the edge of the exact same waterless desert. He faced the identical environmental threats. And just like his friend, about halfway through the journey, he was intercepted by the same group of mud-soaked strangers, offering the exact same advice to throw away their heavy water. But this merchant noticed some behavioral anomalies. The strangers were unusually aggressive and pushy about getting him to dump his supply. He also noticed their eyes were bulging and unnaturally red. This diagram illustrates how the merchant processed the situation. He weighed their bold claim of a nearby oasis against the actual environmental data. He turned to his crew and asked if anyone had felt a single drop of rainwind, or if they could spot any storm clouds on the sky. The data showed 0 humidity and 0 clouds. Since the stranger's claim lacked any supporting evidence, the merchant issued a strict command. Not a single drop of water would be poured out until they physically arrived at a verified new water source. They continued their trek fully supplied. That evening, they reached the campsite of the first caravan, found the scattered bones, proving definitively that the strangers they met earlier were a lethal illusion. The threat was identical for both groups. The only variable that kept the second caravan alive was an active requirement for verifiable evidence. The Buddha originally told this story to teach a specific lesson. Your survival often depends entirely on your ability to see past tricky talk and false appearances. Today, we navigate a different kind of waterless desert. It's the digital landscape of the internet and social media platforms. The demons in this environment are scammers and creators of fake news, and they still use highly convincing disguises to manipulate targets. Only now they take the form of authentic-looking text messages or legitimate news headlines. The goal of these modern traps is exactly the same as the demons in the desert. They want you to dump your defenses. When you fall for these digital lies, the harm is real, whether that means unintentionally spreading this misinformation to your network or handing over your personal bank details to a thief. The defense mechanism hasn't changed in thousands of years. You have to pause and look for the storm clouds. You have to check the sources and verify the facts before you react to a manufactured sense of urgency. The next time a screen presents you with a bold, urgent claim, you have a choice to make. Will you immediately trust the confident words, or will you stop, hold on to your water, and look for the evidence?